Also like to start by acknowledging many women who created and nurtured this field alongside of me, most particularly Joan Bavaria, founder of what is now Trillium, also less well known, but as the founder of Ceres, now very ably managed by Mindy Luber, another early voice in this and continuing voice in this, Alice Tepper Marlin, who created the first corporate grading system, while at Council on Economic Priorities, Julie Eads at the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund for decades, teaching us what it meant to make loans to people who were considered unbankable before her efforts and those of other community development financial institutions came along. Alisa Gravitz at the Green America, popularizing the field, and the remarkable Hazel Henderson, who turned economics upside down with her writings. This is a field that really has been shaped and nurtured by a handful of women through the decades to be what it is today. We must build our shared prosperity together and define profit, including those we derive from our investments, in terms of mutual benefit. Social investing provides one important way to reach that world, and that's no laughing matter. So here I take a few minutes to remind you of the three core elements to impact investing, and I'll discuss some impacts that they've already had and will continue to have. Element one, we set standards in what we will invest in. These standards apply to stocks, bonds, mutual funds, venture capital, private real estate, illiquid debt, and short any investment. The standards hold two primary goals: livable planet and a life worth living. I speak primarily using the vocabulary ecological sustainability and human dignity, universal human dignity. We engage with our investments. This is number two. We write letters, we sign petitions, we vote our proxies, we even file proxies. These are regulated requests for change in management behavior. We file them with our companies that we're invested in. And number three, we support the grassroots through our investments. This might be done by investing in social or impact bonds or a mutual fund with this focus, might be done in direct loans to nonprofits with important work of lending to the poor or the organic farmer who previously was unbanked. This might be venture capital investment in a company that gives employees a stake in outcome or community control over their own water source. We call these the three legs of the stool. A three-legged stool cannot stand if a leg is missing. When people ask which asset manager is doing real impact work, I ask if that manager does these three things. This industry is accountable to no nation, has no superseding governance structure, and if allowed to care only about profits, fiduciaries will find ways to seek out appropriate populations for the supply of body parts to those who can afford them. There is no decency here. There's only one way to control global finance, in my opinion, and that is to infiltrate it and pervert it to do good. And that's what we have done. But it all begins and ends with being able to take a complex situation and turn it into a story. In my book, I speak of a time my mother and I went to Walmart, and she grumbled, "I don't see why they have to make parking lots so horrible. A few trees and benches wouldn't kill them." True, but it would cost money. However, if it also generated kind of a credit that investors respected, they wouldn't worry about the money it cost them for those benches and those trees. We are the investors creating the system to generate the credits, and that is why we are essential to the struggle for a livable planet and lives worth living for good. For me, it's time to reflect and remember, to assist and admire, to enjoy and enable. This is something of a surprise. Had you asked me even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have known that I'd actually enjoy aging. One of the best parts is that you get to see how things turn out. Professionally, some major impacts have resulted from the work that I had so much to do with. I see more than 5,000 companies have annual reports on their corporate social responsibility. That never would have happened if responsible investors had not been pushing for information like this for 30 years. This is huge. With our efforts, company management teams would never be spending time calculating costs or benefits to people on the planet. I read that tens of millions of children who used to work in sweatshops no longer do, thanks to new, more enlightened corporate attitude when choosing who to do business with. Those children have directly benefited from responsible investors' insistence on tracking how T-shirts and other products got delivered so cheaply to our stores. There is much to look back upon and say, in a way, I helped make that happen. In the New York Times, I read a story about the failure of companies to adequately assess and inform shareholders about their risks on climate change. The article blamed the Securities Exchange Commission for inadequately supervising risk disclosure. There was no mention of me or my field, but I know that I have written the SEC, senators, and policymakers many times on this issue. And I know that my peers have kept the pressure on, and now it's going mainstream. Innocence lost, peace gained, and years passing lead to new views. I know responsible investing makes a really important difference in the world, and that the world is better off for it. I have seen the shift. There, I'll leave you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the time.
Hi, thank you. I'm Janine Firpo, as Ellen said earlier, the co-founder of Investor Better. And Amy, thank you so much for spending your time with us. You really have been so profoundly important in this movement. And I love the fact that you started your comments with recognizing so many of the other women that joined you along the way. And I just think that that is a tribute to who you are and to them too. And I think it's so important, the role that women have played. And we'll talk about that a little more. But before we open it up to questions, I just wanted to close out this segment of our conversation with some additional words from your book that I thought were really fantastic. And you said, I can look back on the work of the firm I helped create and truly say that we have made a difference. But it all begins with seeing simple truths. It begins with the collective realization that the secret to making an impact is small. Together, we each can do something. And that, in the end, is everything. Thank you.